Ningen Fushin episode 2, and this episode was a normal episode. It was not bad, it was not spectacular or anything that would blow our minds, but it was still an enjoyable episode. This episode, if I were to describe it in a couple of words, it will be an episode that focuses on Curran, which is actually something that I expected was going to happen, because in the first episode, in the previous episode, the story basically explained what the whole anime was going to be about. Talked a little bit about Tiana, Sam, and Nick, but didn't explain that much about Curran, which, like I said, was odd because you would expect the first episode to do that, to explain every single character, or at least every main protagonist that is going to be part of the story going forward. But because that didn't happen, it was natural that sooner rather than later, and it was actually this episode, the next episode, that went into a little bit further about the story of Curran. And yeah, we actually see her throughout this whole episode be the spotlight of the episode, which I think will be something that will happen going forward. I think each episode, maybe or maybe not, will focus on a character or a single character. Of course, it is not going to be that obvious, you know, the main protagonist, the main focus of the episode being all over the episode, having all the lines. It is not going to be something like that, but scenes here and there focusing on them, learning a little bit more about them, their backstory and things like that, just like this episode was for Curran. Although she was the main spotlight, it was not like she was all over the episode talking and basically doing everything. No. And I see that going forward for other characters, for Nick, especially for Nick, because he's still a mystery character. Out of all the four characters, he is the most mysterious, if you can call it like that. He's the one I guess we all want to learn a little bit more about, because we want to learn about his previous party, why he seems to be really strong, why he was firing, things like that, because I mean, yeah, he is the main protagonist after all. So yeah, I do see that going forward every single episode, or maybe not every single episode, but one episode here and there doing that. And although I said that the episode was all about focusing on the development of Curran, also the episode focused around the question of trusting each other, because after all, that is what the anime is about. It is about heroes, or in this case protagonists, people trying to trust each other because they have been seriously, well, I guess you can say, betrayed in the past. And this episode is all about that, about them trying to learn to trust each other, especially now that they are teammates, especially now that they are a party, because it is not the same to trust a random person than to trust your teammates. Of course, you have to put in more effort to trust your teammates, because in a sort of way your life is in their hands. I mean, yeah, of course they have to trust each other, and we see that throughout the whole episode, how it started with them basically not trusting each other that much, especially Tiana and Curran, because Nick and Sam didn't have that much of a hard time adapting to their teammates, or at least that is what it appears to be, because Sam and Nick were more relaxed, explaining their flaws and, you know, trying to trust their companions, while Tiana and Curran were all the opposite. The least trustful of the other characters was Curran, of course, but also Tiana here and there demonstrated a couple of times that she was still not there also. So yeah, the main focus of this episode was that also, about trusting each other, and specifically Tiana and Curran trusting each other. And I guess you can say after this episode, they are actually now, I don't know if I could say all trustworthy of each other, but at least a little bit more than the start of the episode, of course. So yeah, we see how basically Tiana, I think it was in the middle of the episode, misfiring almost, or actually hit Curran in a way, because, well, it did hit her, but, well, she also blocked it. And because of this, there is a sort of misunderstanding between Tiana and Curran, in where Curran is actually scared, but at the same time distrustful of Tiana, because she thinks she will attack her. We still don't know exactly what happened in her past, in her previous job or party, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever she had, but it seems like it affected her a lot, because, you know, you see her scared and almost angry at the same time when she was attacked, and when she was fighting the final boss, or ogre, or whatever you want to call it. But like I said already, at the end of the day, I mean, she was trustful of Tiana, in part because Tiana took the first step into apologizing to Curran. That is something noteworthy, because of course she's a person of nobility. But yeah, she did, she bowed her head down, she apologized to Curran, which again means a lot to Curran, because she knows everything that involves, or at least most of the things that involve Tiana doing that, and, well, she appreciated, and because of that she trusted her more. So yeah, little things like that are actually very big when you actually think about it, because things like they add character development to the characters. Things like that for Tiana and things like that for Curran slowly but surely will add a little bit more of story development to them too. And yeah, like I said already, one of the things that comes out of this episode when, you know, watching it, at least for me, is wanting to learn a little bit more about Nick it, because even in this episode there was a little scene, I think it was almost at the end of the episode, where everybody was mentioning that, well, Nick was actually really strong, you know, that he was underselling himself for one reason or another. Maybe he doesn't have that much trust on his own powers, on his own abilities, or maybe there is a reason for why he's saying that. Maybe he, well, is not that strong. He did sort of insinuate that an ogre, you know, this god, goblin, if you can call it like that, was actually really difficult for him. And I also would assume that an ogre, of course, is not the final boss monster or the final monster of this, I guess you can say, Ningen Fushin universe. There are still a lot of more powerful monsters out there. This is only the second episode after all, so I don't think the ogre was the final monster. And for Nick to insinuate that maybe, yeah, it is actually really tough, maybe it is because he's actually not that strong. Maybe he was not underselling himself, or maybe not. Maybe he's actually stronger than what he thinks he is. Maybe he doesn't trust that much on his abilities. It would seem to be that way because, I mean, the way he handles himself, the knowledge he has, the power he seems to demonstrate seems to be actually more than he thinks he is. So yeah, I don't know what is going on with that, but yeah, really interesting dialogue when you really, you know, analyze it and try to think what exactly it means, that conversation that they had. Like I said, there is definitely something going on with his backstory that actually made him the person that he is now, because you can clearly see in this episode that he is really mature, that he's really good at giving direction, that he's really good at making everybody feel good, because he's not only a leader but a good leader at that. He basically tells his weakness, he is good at giving compliments, he's good at scouting, he's good at fighting. He's basically an all-around good fighter. So yeah, there's definitely something in his past, something maybe tragic, that made him be the person that he is now. I guess you can say that we already know why he's the person that he is now, you know, a person that doesn't trust other people very much, because we saw it at the beginning of the episode, or I should say in the first episode. But I don't think that is the full story, because I mean, in this episode he was really trustful of the other persons really fast. So yeah, there's that too. I don't think he went from being that type of person that doesn't trust anybody to trusting their companions really fast. I'm also not saying that he's faking it or anything like that, but I'm thinking that maybe there is a middle ground in where he doesn't trust them that much, but at the same time is comfortable enough to be around them and trusting them in little things. I don't think, of course, he's a bad person or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I think there is more to his story than what the episodes are giving us right now. So yeah, there is definitely more about him that we are going to learn in the upcoming episodes. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, a very normal episode, a very good, enjoyable episode. Not boring by any means, not spectacular. It will not blow your mind, but yeah, just that a good second episode, a good solid second episode. It advanced the story of the first episode. It didn't deviate. It basically explained a little bit more about how parties work, about missions, about rankings and things like that, you know, general things about the Ningen Fushin universe. And yeah, it did perfectly what it sought out to do, which is develop the characters, explain a little bit more about the Ningen Fushin universe, and leave us with a couple of questions, because you cannot have an episode without leaving you with a couple of questions, which is always something that the episode must do. And this episode did that, left us with a couple of questions, which is good because it leaves you hooked, it leaves you interested in the story. And I think everybody agrees that that is actually a good thing. So yeah, but yeah, I think I said pretty much everything about the episode. I don't know if I'm forgetting something, hopefully not, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed my review, and I guess I'll see you all in the next episode review.